Today's date is April 21st, 1998. My name is Elaine Gunn, and I'm at the apartment of Mr. Winthrop Evans of Pittsfield, Massachusetts. And Mr. Evans has consented to be an interviewee in our oral history project for the invisible community. Thank you, Mr. Evans, for allowing me to come to your home and to interview you. I'd like to begin with the family background, if I could. I'd like to ask you who your parents were, where they were born, and if they weren't born in Massachusetts, when and why they came to Massachusetts, or why they came to Berkshire County in particular. So if you want to just talk a little bit about your parents.
Well, they were born in Massachusetts. Let me see, my mother was a Williams, and she was born in Interlaken. My father was Evans, and I'm pretty sure he was born in Lee somewhere. In Lee. And let me see. My mother was a they were related to the Rogers. My father had Rogers down at Lee, Stockbridge, or somewhere down in there.
Now, were your grandparents, were they also born
They were
from?
also
Also
from Stockbridge and Lee.
Interesting. Do you remember their maternal grandmothers?
I think they came in here as free slaves.
From where, do you suppose?
I couldn't tell you exactly, but I know my older sister, had that looked into, and she said the family was originally from somewhere down in Pennsylvania. She took the name Van Heusen or something like that. Van Heusen.
Interesting. So when your parents were in southern Berkshire.
Yeah.
Now they worked in southern Berkshire before coming to Pittsfield, you suppose, or do you?
Yeah, well, they did something. I don't know. My father worked for the Willises up in Winthrop for a while.
Was that a family or a factory?
That was a family estate up in there, up in Washington Mountains somewhere. And he also did a lot of work for Western Mass Electric. A little later on.
This was after you were born, or
yeah,
before
I
you
was,
were?
yeah. Well, I was born then because he was married when the First World War was out, and he didn't get to go to that.
At that time, he had children probably, or?
Yeah, he had children.
Do you know where your parents met?
I don't really know. I think they met right in the Berkshire woods there somewhere, South Berkshire. Yeah.
And your mother's family, do you know?
They were from, like I say, Interlaken, and they were Williams, and they were from West Stockbridge somewhere, West Stockbridge. They came here. She said her parents were here with a family, with the Williams family, because they worked out of a farm then. Her grandparents, her mother.
So then
Well, let's see.
after your parents were married, then you suppose did they marry down there and then move to Pittsfield, or did they?
I'm not sure exactly where they married, but we always lived right in Massachusetts, in Berkshire County. As long as I've been alive, we've lived there.
And so you were born then in Pittsfield, and your siblings as well?
We all were, yeah.
How many siblings do you have?
Siblings, me and my brother and sister. Well, I had a brother, Buddy, and two sisters, Doris and Wanda. They're still alive.
Now, I know Wanda, of course,
Yeah.
and I remember hearing about your brother's death some years ago.
Yeah, 41.
Yeah,
He died in 41.
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah.
But I don't remember your sister, Doris.
Doris, yeah.
Did she live in Pittsfield?
Yeah, she always lived in Pittsfield, born here. She went to school here. Now she lives in Yonkers, New York.
Now, I know your sister, Wanda.
Yeah, she's still there.
Still
Yeah.
in Pittsfield. you had one brother and two sisters, and your two sisters are still living. Your brother is deceased.
Yep.
You said your father worked for a family in Windsor and then worked for Western Mass Electric.
Yeah.
The Windsor job or jobs probably many
Yeah.
years ago when you
Oh,
were
yes, I wasn't
before
even, I don't
you were-
believe I was even.
But when you lived in Pittsfield, he was with
Yeah.
Western Mass Electric.
Yeah.
Did your mother work outside the home or?
Yeah, well, she worked there for private families.
Mhm. In the Pittsfield area?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Where did you live in Pittsfield?
Well, let's see, man, I was born on Robbins Avenue, that's just a couple of streets down. And we lived on Notice Street. We lived on Warner Street, several different places on Notice Street. Let's see, Freddy's house.
And where did you go to school?
Well, elementary schools here, Bartlett, Tucker, Pittsfield High School. That's where I went, yeah. That's
All your whole family
all
went
family,
to
yeah, those schools, yeah.
Now, you said your parents. I'm going to back up a bit. Now, when your parents were in Lee, or in that area,
Yeah.
they came. I think your paternal side of your family perhaps came from Pennsylvania, and your father's
My-
side.
Yes.
Father.
Yeah.
Now, do you know whether were they young? Were they school age when they came? Were they come
Oh,
after
no, I
that?
think they came, those people came to Lee, West Stockbridge, and they were free slaves there.
Okay.
Yeah, my grandparents, my great-grandparents.
Okay. So then your parents, who were in that area, would they have gone to school in that area in West
They went to Lee.
Stockbridge? Lee,
Yeah.
school at Lee,
Yeah.
and your both mother and father, I suppose, or?
Well, I'm sure my mother went to school in Lee. I'm not sure about where my father did go to school.
Interesting. That's most interesting because I do have some old pictures of Lee schools
Oh,
that show
yep.
African Americans in classes.
Yeah.
To look that up. Yes. So you went to school here in Pittsfield. You went to you mentioned Bartlett and Tucker. I
Bartlett,
remember the old
Tucker.
Tucker school
Yeah, sure.
years
Yeah.
ago. And then you went to Pittsfield
Yeah,
High.
Pittsfield High.
This was all before Taconic.
Well, I didn't go to time.
No, because that was
built-
later.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
later. So you went to
Because after I come out of the service, I worked when we built the High School.
Yeah.
It wasn't there when I was in school.
No. Now, did you graduate from Pittsfield High School?
Yes.
What year did you graduate from Pittsfield?
41.
41.
41.
And all your siblings as well all went to Pittsfield
Oh,
High.
yeah.
Now, when you graduated in 41, that was just around the time that the country entered the war.
Mhm.
So,
I went to service in 43.
mhm,
Yeah, my
mhm,
son.
mhm. Did you, so then before you went into the service, you worked here in the
Oh,
area?
yeah, yeah.
Where did you work?
Let's see. The first job I had was for down to Heaton Hall, Stockbridge. Really, that's where I got my Social Security number.
Okay.
I remember
that. Mm-hmm. And but then, were you drafted or did you enlist?
I'm drafted. Well, I tried to enlist, but I had such a hard time getting in because I was black. We put it, well, as you can see, that I passed the test, for Air Force Cadet. But
Yeah, those times.
there was no way. I could have stayed out longer than I did, except it was kind of hard standing around another year, those years, and not being in the service, and nothing being wrong with it.
Yeah, yes,
So
exactly.
I went in the service with the idea that maybe once I got in, you could transfer around a little bit. But that's a no-no.
No, that was another. That's
Not
another
this.
whole story.
No,
My
I know.
goodness, when you hear about those stories,
Mhm.
those horror stories.
Yep.
Yeah. So, what branch then did you were enlisted in? I mean, you were
Army.
drafted into the
In
Army,
the Army, yeah.
but you preferred to be in the Air
Well, I
Force.
really wanted to be a cadet,
Yeah.
And so since I could pass it and did pass it, the man just said right out, he said, we aren't able to put a colored person in to swear in as a cadet.
Too bad to see if you had been in
I went to
Alabama.
Springfield.
You'd been in Alabama. You might have been one of those You know, those part of that group who went, those soldiers, those Air Force men.
Oh, yeah.
Remember? From Tuskegee?
Oh, yeah.
Tuskegee Airmen?
Well, that's why I would like to have been there. That was the only, that was the only place you could go to in them days anyway, just 99th Pursuit.
Yes, yes.
Tuskegee.
Yes. It was they're just now getting the recognition that they
Oh, yeah.
have missed all those
Just
years.
barely.
Just
Mhm.
barely.
Yeah.
What a shame, you know, that your career was stifled. Just this, always. Mm.
Well, we knew it.
Yes,
So,
we all knew it.
although I'll tell you one thing, Elaine, I really wasn't aware of that, too much of that, until I was trying to get in service, until that.
Well, tell me about going to school here in Pittsfield, when you were in elementary school in
Yeah.
particular. Any problems?
No problems, no problems that I couldn't solve.
Mhm. Did you have white friends?
Oh, well, mostly, but all during high school, you know. And the sports, you know, athletic, there wasn't too many colors in there anyways.
Wasn't your brother an athlete?
Yeah, he was good.
Tell me
He
a
was
little
great.
about him.
Hmm?
Tell me about your brother.
Well,
He was an athlete.
he got out, oh, yeah, but he was quite, you know, well known. And he was great, you know, in high school, and then in Mass State, and Mass College, he was well known.
That's right. University of Massachusetts was Mass State at that time.
Mass State, yeah.
Yes, at that time. I remember hearing about him years later.
No, yeah.
Evans was quite an athlete in high school.
He was, yeah, high school and college.
Were you an athlete in
Oh,
high
yes,
school also?
I was, yeah.
What sports did you
Oh,
participate in?
well, I was in with football and track.
And you didn't have any problems on the team
Oh,
with
no.
the
None of them, no.
or in the community because you were black?
No. Yeah. Like I say, until I tried to get in the Army, I never would really say I was ever been into that kind of stuff. You know?
Well, you know, sometimes, I know this has happened, I've heard about this, and I know it certainly did for me. Growing up and going to school, going to a predominantly white high school, the things seem to be fine. You can have friends during the day, you can be involved in sports, but when it came to the parties, people sometimes did not invite you to parties and that kind of. Did you have any difficulty with it? Were you invited to parties and dances
Sure.
that were just
Different
white?
people's houses, and well, I belonged with what they call the Shack Club. That was down on 4th Street, mostly Italians there. That was a pretty nice club, you know, like a bunch of fellas. I say we didn't have no problem, and you know, and a little bit of problems you had in them days, you could just go ahead and come on. Let's go down the sandbank. Settle down.
But what about jobs now? There's certain jobs, depending on the kind of job you had. Do you have any problems? I mean, could you have gone into, well, the factories at that time, I guess there was GE.
Yeah.
Could you have gone to GE had you
Oh,
wanted
yes,
to?
yeah. I don't know about school days then, but then I didn't, well, let me see, I worked in plastics. I was one of the, about third, fourth colored person who worked in plastics. And it was really no problem about colors. Just when you got in, they told you to go, and let you go everywhere. I worked in the plastics. Who was there? Charlie Wilson and Al Pacific. And another fellow, I'm trying to think. McCullen.
His name sounds familiar. I don't know. I've heard that from South County. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
they live right down here on Lincoln Street.
Were there, heard that people were not hired in stores, on North Street, for instance, as clerks and things like that? Women were not.
Let's see, I'm trying to think who worked on North Street in them days. We worked in the elevator, we call that a job.
Yes,
And we were
running
in high school
elevators.
then, yeah.
Yeah, running elevators, I understand. And of course, were there any educators, any black educators in the city, Pittsfield at that time?
I can remember. Mrs. Hart was one of the first ones that I know. That was after I come back from the service, yeah.
Later, she had to go out of the area, Margaret.
Yeah.
before, then she came back home, and then was hired, but she went out of the area, south and out in the Midwest, I believe. Yeah. But that was not just Pittsfield, I believe, that was probably
Yeah.
a good part of the
That was-
country,
yeah, all over.
and certainly in North and South County as well. Did you have, sometimes we and our families have had either grandparents or other aunts and uncles living in our families when we were growing up. Did anybody ever live in your family other than your immediate family when you were growing up?
No.
Did your grandparents stay in South Berkshire? Did they die while they were living there? Did they?
Well, I never did know my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen pictures of them.
Mm-hmm.
But but my grandmother was alive for a short while when I was born.
Do you remember her?
Just barely.
You
Just
were
barely,
a
yeah.
toddler or so.
Yeah.
So she was in Pittsfield at the time.
Yeah.
She was living in Pittsfield at
Yeah.
the time. So you went into the service and stayed until the war was over?
Yeah.
Were you married at that time?
No. I got out of the service in 46.
46. Mm-hmm. And you came back to Pittsfield?
Oh, yeah.
Did you have a job waiting for you, or did you have to
No,
look
well,
for a job?
No, I didn't have a job. I had to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went back to try to get into the GE,
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, I had these years in the plastic. Well, not even years, just some time.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 1 year at the most. But they said, well, the plastic is not affiliated with the GE. That's what they told me. So that you couldn't get that service.
Yes.
But there wasn't enough really to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't care much about the GE to start with.
Mm-hmm.
But I put in 9 years in the GE, regular GE.
After you came back from the service? Oh. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Well, that seemed to be a place for, like a magnet for many black men and women, I think.
Yeah.
And it was
Oh,
still
yeah, a lot.
going. It was a big
Yeah.
concern.
It
at
was
that
a job. It was a decent job. It was,
Oh, it
but
wasn't
it
necessarily-
wasn't going to get much better. I don't believe.
In the whole county. I mean, it's probably, people came up from South County in Connecticut and New York State.
Always, yeah. No problem. But I didn't like the GE. I didn't like being inside.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't stay there. Like I said, I stayed there 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 9 years, I was sitting on the same stool, doing the same work that I did when I started. Not that I didn't get better, I got a little better pay, but it just got boring to me. Didn't like it.
You prefer than working outside?
Yeah.
So is that what you did for most of your life? You worked
Yeah, just about.
in construction or?
Construction, yeah. Can't work at food camps.
Mm-hmm.
Always outside,
Mhm.
construction, that I really liked.
It's interesting. So then when were you married?
See, I was married in 49, December 31st, last day, 49.
And your wife's name
Esther.
was?
Esther Jones.
Esther Jones.
Yeah.
Now her family was from Pittsfield a long time, or were
Long
they?
well.
Mhm.
Yeah, no.
Just trying to think, I thought were they related to some other families in Pittsfield? I can't
See,
think.
Davises,
Davis.
the Davis, Joan, let me see, her name was, her father was Jones, and the mother was Davis, and they were married to, related to,
I can't place them either, but I remember them.
Johnson. They had an Uncle Johnson, Case.
And you have how many children?
3.
3 children.
Yeah, 3.
Now, are they all living here in Pittsfield?
Yeah, they're all here now.
What are their names?
Cynthia, she's the oldest, and then there's Winthrop and Esther, the youngest.
Okay. Now, do you have grandchildren?
Oh, yeah.
How many grandchildren do you
Oh, I
have?
had to start counting. Let's see. Cindy has 4. 4 good. Winnie has 3, And Esther has two.
Two living. So
Two living,
they're,
yeah.
so the
She had a
girls-
son. She had a son between the girl she has now and Chris, the oldest boy. And he died in Poughkeepsie. He was just about 2 years old.
Sad. It's sad. It's sad. So you have 9 grandchildren.
That what I do. I don't know if I bothered to count them lately, but
Yeah.
if that would have come out, all right.
Well, because we have 9.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what do the girls? So you have 2 girls and a boy, and
No.
I'm sorry. So your children
Our old girls.
are all girls.
Yes.
Okay. Winifred,
Yep.
Cynthia,
Cynthia, Winifred.
and Esther. Okay. Okay. But your grandchildren are mixed boys
Yes,
and girls.
yes,
Okay.
mhm.
Right. Now, did they? So your children, of course, grew up in Pittsfield and went to school in Pittsfield.
Yeah.
Probably went to either Taconic or Pittsfield.
Yeah, well,
Taconic.
let me see, who went to high school?
Started at
Yeah,
Pittsfield
they went to
High and
Taconic.
then went to Taconic probably.
Yeah.
How old are they?
I can start telling you. Esther is, I think, about 41. When he's, well, I can do about 43. And Cynthia's probably about 40, 44 or 45.
Okay, same age as our older kids.
That's it.
But now, you're widowed.
Yes, no.
Yeah. How long has Esther been
No,
deceased?
let me see, 44 years.
4 years, more than 4 years. Time gets away so
Yeah.
fast.
Mhm.
Oh, goodness. Yes. Did Esther work outside of the home at all?
Oh, yeah, yeah. She worked for the Englands. She worked for the Englands, well, before I even, not before I knew her, but before I come out of the service, she was working for Dan and Jean England. She's always
Oh, yeah.
worked for them.
Yes. So you and Esther knew each other all your lives practically,
Well,
didn't you?
Well, I knew she was a little girl when I went to service. She wasn't very, impressive when I went to service, but when I come out, I got to know her a little better.
Now, you said she worked for the Englands?
Yes.
Right. And that she has been deceased for about
4 years.
Yes. Was she ill very long?
No, 1 week. She went in the hospital on a Sunday, and she died on a Sunday, that following Sunday.
Oh, dear. That's a frightening thing. Yes. So you met here in Pittsfield, and she went to Pittsfield High.
Just went to a different elementary school, that's all.
Okay, because she lived
She always
differently.
lived in Pittsfield.
She always lived in
We went to Pittsfield High.
Yeah. And, see, I'm trying, she probably went to high school about the same time that Barbara
Yeah,
Gunn
her and
did.
Barbara were great friends.
Rich, I know they were,
Mhm.
yeah.
In fact, Barbara was her best, her best lady.
Yes,
Right.
yeah. I know they were going to school in Pittsfield. I was going to school in Stockbridge. I remember. You have a church affiliation in here?
Well, not really. I don't. We used to go to the First Baptist when Esther was alive and the kids were going to church. I still got the thing from Dr. Baker from the First Congregational Church when I joined the Congregational Church. That was in 1932.
You were christened probably in the Congregational Church, or were you christened in the
Yeah.
Congregational Church?
Yeah.
Okay, you still have your christening records apparently.
I have it here. Yeah, I have it.
You have it?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yes. Okay. What do you remember? Now you probably, as all of us did, our parents took us to church.
Yep.
And it was important to
It's a
have
Sunday
that
school
to
anyway.
Sunday school,
Mhm.
have that religious instruction when we were growing up. Do you remember any fun times at the church, or picnics or gatherings?
Oh, yes. Church picnic was one of the, I guess I didn't think there was anything more in this world to wait for but the church picnic. That was up in Camp Merrill.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
That was what the whole year was about.
Waiting for that
Yep.
to happen in the summertime. So your whole family would go? And
Everybody's
all the
family.
children, everybody would.
Everybody, yeah.
Did you ever were there other things during the winter? I know sometimes they used to have things like little contests and things for children to do. recitations at certain Christmas and Easter and that kind of thing?
Well, I don't know.
Remember
Well,
those?
we have a few programs they had in the school or in the church. Sometimes you got to be on one of their programs that the Mother Society used to have.
Speaking of programs, were you involved in programs in school when you were in elementary school?
Oh, I was one of the three wise men at one time. I don't know how wise I was to be that, but who was that?
Wonderful.
It was Norman Dillard
Oh,
and Junebug and myself.
Junebug, I don't remember.
Robert Blackwell. You don't remember Robert Blackwell? Oh, he married Margie Pacific.
See, I
didn't
don't
know
know. I didn't know Margie. I didn't know Margie either.
Junebug. Didn't you know Junebug?
No, I didn't know him.
No.
But I remember Norman, they called Duty. I never
Yeah,
really
Duty.
know him. But Eloise Mitchell,
Yes.
we should talk about Duty Bill.
Oh, Duty. Yeah. He was quite a dude.
Is he still living?
No, he died some years ago. 10 years ago.
What about some of your male friends growing up? Are they still around?
Not
Or are
very
they?
many. Only Warren Jacobson and Goldie are the only two I know that's left alive.
Now Goldie?
That's Romaine goes for.
Oh, sure.
Romaine and
Sure.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him for many years now. Is he in the Washington area now?
No, he's in Hawaii,
Okay.
and he got a home in Hawaii, and also in Alaska.
Okay.
We went to service at the same time.
Okay. Because didn't Barbara's family and the Romaine and Jean were all sort of related at some.
Yes, because Jean's mother, Goldie and Jean's mother had died, and that's Barbara and
Mother.
took care of her.
That's
Took care of
correct.
Romaine and
Yes.
Jean.
Yes. That's what I used to hear, that they were sort of almost brother and sister there when they were born. Yes.
Mhm.
But I haven't seen him for many, many years. Yes. Did your family ever have reunions? They would get together and just enjoy being together, especially
yes.
family who didn't live in the area?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have family who doesn't live here other than your sister?
Well, let's see. Well, I used to have, but who's left now is Dickie Williams. Dickie Williams left now. Ariel. Remember Ariel Hall? Ariel.
I didn't know
She's
that
my
she...
aunt. She's my cousin. My aunt was her mother, Aunt Angie, and Uncle Harry.
Okay. Now, it's the same Ariel Hall who is the mother of Stokes?
Mm-hmm.
No, who's not Stokes anymore. So remember that.
Yeah.
Right, no, it is them. Okay.
That's it.
Right, yes, okay. I didn't realize. I knew she wasn't well at one point.
No, I haven't seen her in a long, long while.
Mm-hmm.
But she, I heard she was sick, not doing
Yes.
well. One time I don't see her all that often, but
Mm-hmm.
when I see her, she's let me know
What's happening in the family. But you used to get together as a family and have...
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
meetings even. Let's see. So then, Ariel Hall is your aunt, is that what you're saying?
No, she's my cousin.
Oh, your cousin, okay.
Yep, her
Okay,
mother, Angie, she was a ward at one time,
okay,
and she married my Uncle Harry.
okay. Do you belong to any civic group now or community organization, anything that you
Well,
do
I
for
belong,
fun?
not too much, I belong to the Veterans of Foreign War.
Are you active?
Oh, yes, yeah.
I know they still have various activities.
Oh, yeah,
And,
yeah.
Mogo's just to the dinner once a year.
No, I do. I go a little more, and I go to a few meetings every once in a while.
Good.
In fact, that's about the only place I can go these days.
Do you march in the parade?
No,
They always
no,
have
no,
the parade in
no.
summer.
Although they asked me to
I'm sure they
a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
but that time I don't know what happened.
Well, there aren't many of you left.
I know. It's scarce.
And scarce, and your presence is, it's kind of nice to see
Yeah.
out there, participating, being involved. Okay, anything special about your school experience at all? Anything
No, but like I can, if I'm down at the club you're talking, there's not too many of us, colored people there. But, I know quite a few of the fellows. In fact, I know them all. But not many of them I went to school with, most of them. I lost track of them, or they died, or whatever. Or they're somewhere else. No, I had a nice time.
You remember any games you played as a child? And
We played just about the regular game, kick the can, and all that stuff you played in the yard or out in the road between supper and bedtime. But one thing about you don't see anymore. Like Johnny Hubbard and I used to wheel hoops or tires. Now that's something you don't never see people do anymore.
I wonder why.
I don't
Sort
guess
of
it's
like
kind
a
of hard to
loss.
come by from one thing.
Yeah, old
But they
bicycle
just don't do it.
bicycle tires, and other
Yeah.
with a stick.
That's what a stick, sure. We get little tires, little Ford tires or something you could wheel fairly easily. And wheel them up through the pines up there, up around another lake, up all the way around, back down through Pine-Tucci Lake. You can wheel them a long ways.
Oh, wow. Isn't that
Oh,
something?
yeah. You remember the Pipers? Hold on.
The what?
The Pipers. You might know Cooley.
Oh,
Remember
yes, of course.
Yeah.
I remember Cooley Piper.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he lives up on Oneida Avenue.
Oh, I didn't know they lived in Pittsfield.
Oh, yeah. One time. Whole family. It was Barnard and Hillard and Ward and Jeanette.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
They were quite a good-sized family. And then they moved to Albany later
Some
on.
of them did, and they were related to Du Bois.
Yep.
Yeah, cousins.
Yep.
W.E. Du Bois. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the father looked exactly like Du Bois. Yes. Yeah. So, what hide and go seek? I imagine you
Oh,
play
sure.
that.
Yeah.
You always played hide and go seek. But you were quite an athlete anyhow, you say.
Yeah. Went to school in high school.
Remember chores that your mother would ask you to do when you were growing up? What kinds of chores did you have?
Well, I always thought they were just regular chores. You had to sip the ashes in the wintertime. Had to do our turn, Buddy and I had to do our turn at the dishes. And then later on, I didn't consider it a chore, but we had a little cart. I think Uncle Charlie made it for me. And go around the stores here and pick up kindling wood, boxes and whatever, around my street.
Those things are sort of lost today. I don't know what happened.
I guess they went with the horse and wagon, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, but all children have to do them.
Yeah, always.
Wow. What kinds of lessons then do you suppose you learned from your parents, aside from that everybody in the household takes part in keeping the house going?
Yeah.
Any other lessons that you think perhaps you learned from your parents?
Well, I'll tell you, one thing we learned the bad value of having parents, caring parents, because they sure did that. My father always worked, my mother always worked. Sometimes we had to scramble a little bit to eat, but we never went hungry. Well, I could put it the other way, there never wasn't a time when you weren't hungry in them days, but at that age. Well, we had enough to eat, but 2 minutes later, we'd be hungry again.
Yeah, well, that's growing.
Yes, growing. But we always had to sit down and eat.
Together.
That's right. Yep.
God, that's so important.
Sit down and say the blessing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you pass these same lessons on to your children?
Oh, yeah. So, somewhat. I wouldn't say not quite as strict. I wouldn't quite as strict.
As strict as your parents were
No.
with you. What happened? I think we all feel that.
Well, no, everything changed.
Everything changed, it did. Yeah, shame, But did your parents?
Excuse me.
No, go ahead.
I just want to say, but my kids were always respectful and nice. They got some pretty nice girls.
Yes.
They were.
And to treat others. How did your parents? That was important, especially for older folks. Did they ever talk about
Yeah.
that? Yes. Did your parents discipline you, children?
With a hippie stick. Bet your boots.
Those were the days.
Yep, I don't know how the girls made up my as far as that strict, but I know I had my share of whippings.
Yeah. It's a different story now.
Yeah, well, most of them I guess I deserved that.
Did you ever spank your children? You had all girls too.
One time I had to. One time my youngest daughter didn't show up to school for a few days, and she was supposed to be there. So I got on her pretty rough, you know. But she told me she would never do it again. And she didn't.
And they all went through school all right.
Oh, yeah. Yep. She had a very nice boss down there. She was working in Poughkeepsie down at IBM. And I went down there for a funeral for one of the boys. And she was telling the boss about me and how I got on about not going to school those days. And the bosses, they were very, very nice to me. You know, they were friendly. And they said, "Look, you know, that's such a nice girl." But she told us how you treated her when she missed those days of school. And she said, and he also said how much they thought of her and how good that little chastisement did for her.
Yeah. That must have made you feel good.
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
But it sure made me feel bad when I did it, but
Yeah.
I thought I had to do it, you know.
You do have, there are times when you do
Yeah.
things that are important,
Yeah.
and they do remember, they do come back
Yeah.
and let you know. Yes. But of course, now it's a very different story. You know, you can be, what charges can be.
And then they wonder why. And then they wonder why the kids aren't very good, you know.
Exactly. They wonder why. But the laws will have to change.
Yeah.
Did you contribute to the family finances outside the home when you were working outside the home? You know, some children when our age group, you were at home.
Yes. Well, when after I come out of the service, I paid rent to my mother. I hadn't father. It never went down to father. I always give whatever I was given to my mother. Oh yeah.
I think all of us did. That was one more thing that we just did. Expected of you. And you
That
did
was
it growing up.
expected. Well, I was staying there. I stayed there 3 or 4 years after I come out of the service.
When did your parents die?
Well, my mother died first. She died. She Esther. So that means she died. She died in about 50. And little Esther wasn't alive when my mother died. And
She must have been. She must have been pretty young. She didn't get very old.
Oh yes, she was in her 60s.
Yeah, that's considered pretty young today. Yes. You have any favorite recipes that you remember that who did the cooking in your home, your mother or your father?
Well, my mother did. At home, yeah. He didn't do any cooking.
What did you like to eat that your mother cooked?
Everything.
That's what I usually hear.
They didn't have much choice anyways.
Yeah.
No, they didn't have much choice.
Yeah. No, in those days you ate what was put before you.
And when you said the blessing, you just did it sincerely.
Exactly.
I'm telling you that.
Oh.
Yeah, but she's make very good beans for her, baked beans. She was good at that. And then we had a lot of stew, lamb stew. We
Sounds
don't
familiar.
see much no more.
No.
Strawberry shortcake.
Yes.
Go out there and pick the strawberries too.
Yes, I remember that. Did your mother talk about the recipes or meals that she cooked at all, or did she just?
Well, she like did she cook for us? I don't, not too much to me about it, but I know that my sisters when they were cooks, you know.
And your mother cooked outside the home, or did she cook for families that she cooked for?
I guess once in a while she may have cooked. It wasn't one of her main jobs. She did iron, house cleaning. And she did work in the GE during the war.
What she did for
Yeah,
them.
she did a lot of work in the General Electric.
Many women, many black women went to the defense plants during
Yeah.
the 4 years. Good. You have any hobbies?
Me, hobbies? Well, I used to like to fish. I still would like to fish if there was any fish around to catch, really. Fishing's not like it used to be.
No, I guess it isn't.
Hmm?
You hear some not very good things about
No.
the various waters.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
We used to catch nice fish right out of the river down, right out of the Stockbridge River. We not only caught fish out of it, but we swam in it.
Yes,
And we
yes.
think nothing about it.
Are they cleaning it up at all now? Are they?
I don't think. They say they are, but they did so much damage so long, it's going to take a long, even after we clean that river up, it's going to take that river a long time to clean itself up.
Another generation or two. Too bad. Too bad. Can you think of anything that your mother or grandmother did as a hobby that's no longer being done?
It's kind of hard for me to
Think back.
her hobby, because to me, whatever she did seemed like she was always doing something.
Always doing
for it,
something, yeah.
You know, she wasn't working. She was taking care of her clothes or whatever.
What mothers did.
Yeah, and that's
Days.
she was always busy.
Do you have any special memories of just living in Berkshire County? Anything that sort of comes to mind about being here?
Being here, well, what really comes to mind is it was a very nice place to live. You know, I tell a lot of fellows and go, it's really not like it used to be. I don't know what I would say. It's not as nice, not as good as it used to be. Not as nice as it used to be, but to me, it was always a nice place to live. Nice place.
The problems were different than they are. Can you describe some of the problems that then as compared to the problems today? We know what the problems are. We read about them every day.
Way different.
Were there any, what didn't you hear about growing up as when you think about what there are, the problems that are around today? What kinds of problems were there? Because there obviously were some, not necessarily racial, but some problems.
No, they weren't. No. Well, I guess you would always find some racial problems if you wanted to look, but some days you didn't look for nothing like that. Problem, I don't know, don't seem to me like I had too many really terrible problems anyways, you know. A lot of they like to get up and go to work, and they didn't have too much problems finding a job, and there was work around to get if you wanted to work. Whereas you think about these days, you know, now, to get around, I don't think there's any work for them.
What are they doing? What about the recreation? Tell us about some of the things that the dances, the parties.
Oh, they were nice. You don't see no more of them either. Well, you know, I don't know.
What organizations used to sponsor them?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, one thing I was one of the original Lucky Sevens, you know. We gave a lot of good dances. We got a good things, at least I thought we did. I'm sure we did.
Now, the Lucky Sevens was a group of Pittsfield men.
Yeah. Let me see. Mo
didn't.
Mo didn't?
No.
Joe, well, at least I know one of them, Joe did play basketball with us, you know, when we had a basketball team.
Yeah, well, Mo played basketball.
Yeah, I know, he did be played with us.
Yes, okay.
Lucky Sevens.
So the Lucky Sevens was not just a group of men involved in sports, but other.
Oh, yeah, you know what, how we got that going? When the Reverend Nevers came, we were having
Was he a pastor of the Second Congregational Church?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, he was a pastor.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And,
After Dr. Baker, after Reverend Baker. And he decided that we were given dances and stuff like that in the name of Second Congregational Church and the Young People Society. But he decided that that wasn't good for the church. So I guess he was wrong. He might have been right or wrong. But what he did do was to ask us to turn the bank book over to him. And we had, I guess, $100 or something, I think. So there was a Goldie, Warren Jacobs, Drew Dillard, Joe Reed, myself, Billy and Charlie Williamson, and there was one more. Oh, there's a fellow here, he was visiting here. He'd been here quite a while, Jack. Jack, he was visiting the house, and he was in there. And what we did do is took the money out of the bank, and we formed the Lucky Seven.
And the Lucky Seven then, they began to do what?
We gave dances and parties, and we got flowers for the church every Sunday. If somebody was sick, we sent them flowers, or we did what we thought was good. And we also, did those other things to raise a little bit of money. But Reverend never decided that, that wasn't the way to raise money for the church, so we put an end to that.
What a shame. So then the Lucky Seven disbanded?
No, that's when we formed the Lucky Seven.
Oh, that's when you formed the Lucky Seven, okay.
That's when we formed it. We were the Young People Society then.
Okay. Now, how long did this group last?
Quite a while.
Were members of that group involved also in the bands? Weren't there a couple of bands in Pittsfield who used to work?
Oh, they were good. Yeah, they were nice ones, but no, they were different bands. Mm-hmm. So, some of them, who was in the band there? No, the band was a little younger then. It was like Greg and Powell. Some of the younger, they were a little younger than we were.
Okay.
That used to be in the bands here.
I thought, well, you mean like Johnny Hubbard?
No.
Chet Williams, he was older.
Oh, no, younger.
Chet Williams was
Chet.
Chet, he was older.
They were old. That's the Dixie Serenaders.
Okay. So none of those guys were in your...
Oh, no,
okay.
They were men.
Okay, because they were older. Men. Yeah.
Johnny Hubbard, he was Johnny's father's uncle.
Johnny Hubbard was your uncle?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. And Chet Williams, the first band I ever danced to in Berkshire County was the Dixie Serenaders. Yeah, regular dances. Did you go to those dances that time?
Yes,
I thought.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, lots of parties and dances. What other kinds of fun things? I know you had, you said, your Lucky Seven, you had baseball games. Did you bring people from other teams from other areas?
Oh, yes.
And where did you play?
Well, usually we played wherever, but we used to go different places to play. Well, that wasn't so much baseball, it was basketball.
Okay.
Joe and I went out and went to all the stores on North Street and got a sponsor, a suit, and equipment for basketball. We had a very nice basketball team.
Yeah, I think Mo played on that team.
Yes, and we had very good, nice outfits too, all brand new.
So you created recreational activities for the community.
Yeah, then. Yeah.
This was after World War II.
It was right after. No, let me see. I don't think it was that. Before.
Before World War II.
You just out of high school. It was in between them. Few years. That
before the war started.
Yeah, before the war started.
Interesting. And the community then had something to look forward to. The black community certainly.
Yeah.
And at this time, the black community was probably although they lived among whites in the white community, but they still had their own activities that they participated in and were involved in, more so than just being involved with the white dances or teams or games.
No, we had a lot of our own different things that we went to. They were given, we gave them, or they given by us, or mostly for us.
Was there anything else that you can think of that would be kind of interesting to include?
think, no, I was
Interesting
looking,
life.
so, there were so many, I guess, you live all those years, and then you try to think back and say, well, what did I do? The years are gone, the time is gone, and what happened?
What happened to the years?
Yeah.
But you're still here. You seem to be in very good health.
Oh, yeah, I'm good health. Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah.
And your children live in the area,
Yeah.
so that you have your children, your grandchildren in the area.
And great-grandchildren.
And great-grandchildren. Oh, dear, great-grandchildren. Wow.
Boo-hoo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it does
Yeah.
happen.
My grandchildren are 20s now.
Oh.
Some of them might be in their 30s.
Yeah.
Almost in their 30s.
Oh, but yeah. I have one who's 22. And you haven't thought of remarrying?
Oh, no. That's... No, but I...
Well, this has been very nice, and I want to thank you very much for this interview, and this will be part of our oral history.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go into the archive.
That would be nice.
Okay.
Say I wasn't famous, but...
Yeah, well, your grandchildren and
Yep.
great-grandchildren, perhaps, always come and look up information about their grandpa.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
That's good. Okay, thank you very much.